Here the lessee can just use that asset for a particular period of time, for which the lessee has to pay some amount which is known as lease rent. Now bank will collect the bill and gives and deduct some amount from that bill and gives the amount to the seller. Here account receivable is purchased from A and that amount will be recovered on the due date and rest balance amount will be given to A. Hello everyone, I am Harshita, lecturer, Department of Commerce, Vidyashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysore. Today, we are in the third session of Unit 1, that is Introduction to Financial Service. So, what do you mean by financial service? The service which is provided by the financial organizations are called as financial service. So, there are number of services which is provided by the financial organization in the finance industry. So, that is known as what? Financial service. Now, we shall quickly see what we have discussed in a previous session. So, in a previous session, we have learnt about contribution of financial service in promoting industry and service. So, how this financial service have led to the development of industry and service. Or overall, we can tell that what is the contribution of financial service in the economy. In today's session, we shall continue with new topic, that is types of financial services. What are the types of financial services? So, as I have already told you, there are number of financial services. In today's session, we shall discuss what are the types of that financial service. So, we shall discuss few of the financial service in detail. So, financial service are classified into two types. So, there are two types of the financial service has been classified into two types. So, the first one is asset or fund based service and the second one is non-fund based service. So, the first one is what? Asset or fund based service and the second one is non-fund based service. Now, in today's session, we shall discuss about asset or fund-based service. So, what is it? What are the services which comes under asset or fund-based service? Now, what is this asset or fund-based service? So, these are services which is provided in relation to asset as well as fund. So, they are called as asset or fund-based service. Now, we shall see the first type under asset or fund-based service. Under that, the first one is equipment leasing or lease financing. Now, before going through this explanation, let me give an example here. Now, see this picture. So, here there are two parties. Who are the two parties? Lessor and the lessee. So, who are the two parties in the lease financing? Lessor and lessee. So, lessor can be either he can be a person or it can be an organization. So, lessor can be either person or the organization and he is the seller. He is the seller. Whereas the other party is lessee. Here, lessee can be also an organization or he can be a person also. So, there are two parties, lessor and lessee, and there is an agreement between two parties which is known as lease agreement. So, what is that agreement is called as lease agreement. Now, lessor or the person is having an asset. So, here in this picture is having a vehicle. Now, lessee, that is the person who wants to use that asset. So, lessee is the person who wants to use that asset. Now, what does the lessor will do? Lessor transfers that asset to the lessee. According to this lease agreement, lessor transfer that vehicle to the lessee to use that asset. But he will not become the owner of the asset. Ownership remains in the hands of lessor itself. Ownership remains in the hands of lessor itself. He transfers the assets to lessee and lessee use that asset. For using that asset, he has to pay some amount which is known as lease rent. Lease rent. Now, clear about this leasing, lease financing. Here there are two parties, lessor and lessee. Lessor is having an asset and lessee wants to use that asset. So what does the lessor will do? Lessor will transfer that asset to the lessee on the condition that he has to pay some amount for using that asset, which is known as lease rent. And there is an agreement between two parties which is known as lease agreement, which tells that what is the duration of this agreement, in the sense for how many period this lessee can use that asset. But the ownership will always remains in the hands of lessor, because it is not sold. It is not sold. It is just transferred. So here the lessee can just use that asset for a particular period of time, for which the lessee has to pay some amount which is known as lease rent. Now if you see the picture, here is they are going to transfer the vehicle. Now lessee takes that vehicle and he makes the payment, minimum lease payment, which is known as lease rent. Now come to the explanation here. A lease is an agreement under which a firm acquires the right to make use of a capital asset. So it should be a capital asset like machinery or vehicle. So it should be a capital asset on payment of an agreed fee, which is called as lease rental. So here the lessee or the person who takes that asset is known as lessee, and he can use that asset by paying lease rent. The person or the company which acquires the right is known as lessee. Here this person is known as lessee because he takes the right of that asset to use that asset, right? He does not get the ownership of the asset. So this I have told you, ownership lies in the hands of lessor itself. He is the owner of the asset because they are not completely selling the asset. He is just giving to use that asset for a particular period of time. He acquires only the right to use the asset. The person or the company who gives the right is known as lessor. Now the person who gives the asset, now here this person gives the asset is known as what? Lessor. And the second type is hire purchase and consumer credit. Now what is this hire purchase? So hire purchase is an alternative to leasing. We have learnt about leasing or lease financing, right? It is just an alternative to lease financing. So hire purchase is just an alternative to lease financing. Hire purchase is a transaction where goods are purchased and sold on the condition that payment is made in installment. Before explaining this, let me give an example. There are two parties, A and B, and A is going to sell some goods or assets to B. So A is called as hire seller. Hire seller, and B is going to purchase that asset or good. So he is called as hire purchaser. Hire purchaser. So who are the two parties? Hire seller as well as hire purchaser. Now A transfers that goods to B. So A transfer that goods to B and B make some amount as down payment, or B pays some amount on the date of transfer. So when the goods are transferred to B, on that particular date, B pays some amount to A, which is known as down payment. For example, A has transferred worth rupees 1 lakh. 1 lakh worth goods. Now on the date of transfer, B has transferred some amount, or B has given some amount which is known as down payment. That is, for example, 20,000. Remaining 80,000 which has to be given to A. Remaining 80,000 which has to be given to A will be made in installments. Will be paid in what? In installments. Now, how does the ownership will be? Now, once A transfers the goods to B, B doesn't become the owner of that particular asset or goods. He becomes owner when he pays his last installment to A. When B pays his last installment to A, then only B becomes the owner. Till then, A will be the owner of the asset. So A will be the owner of the asset. The ownership transfers to B only after the payment of last installment. Suppose if B doesn't pay the installment, then what happens? A can take back that goods. A has a right to take back that goods or asset. So this is about hire purchase system. Whereas in leasing finance, the property has been given only for a particular period in order to use that asset, right? Whereas here ownership transfers, but when? Only when the last installment is being paid. So hire purchase is an alternative to leasing. Hire purchase is a transaction where goods are purchased and sold on the condition that payment is made in what? Installments. The buyer gets only possession of goods. So here goods only can be transferred to the buyer, but the ownership remains in the hands of whom? Seller itself. He does not get ownership. Buyer does not get the ownership. He gets ownership only after the payment of last installment. So this I have told you. Next, if the buyer fails to pay any installment, the seller can repossess the goods. So he can take back the goods if the buyer has not paid his last installment. Till the last installment, if he has left out any of installment, then he has a right to take back the goods. Each installment includes interest also. So it's not that he is just going to pay in installment. Along with the interest, he has to pay interest also. Along with installment, he has to pay interest also. And the next, third type is bill discounting. So what do you mean by this bill discounting? Here also there are two parties, that is seller and buyer. Now seller is a person who sells the goods, okay, and buyer is a person who buys the goods. Now this type of transaction takes place on credit basis. So here it is mainly considered on credit transaction. Now what happens? So what do you mean by credit transaction? So they will buy some goods, but the payment is not made immediately. So it is called as what? Credit transaction. Cash transaction in the sense purchasing or selling something, but the payment of cash takes place immediately. Then what is credit? Here the seller have sold some goods to the buyer, but the buyer have not paid the amount immediately. He takes some time and then he will make the payment. For example, seller has sold worth rupees 10,000 to the buyer. Now, buyer have not paid the cash immediately. He takes 30 days time. He takes 30 days time to make the payment to the seller. Then seller wants the money immediately. So he wants the money immediately. Then, but what does the agreement tells? The buyer will pay after 30 days, right? Then what he'll do? He collects the bill from the buyer. Seller collects the bill from the buyer. So he takes the bill from the buyer. Then he goes to the bank. So here seller is in urgent need of money, but the agreement tells that buyer will make payment after 30 days. But seller wants the money now. Then he will collect the bill from the buyer. Seller collects the bill from the buyer and he directly goes to the bank. Now what the bank will do? Bank will collect the bill. So bank will collect the bill. For example, the worth of the bill is 10,000. Now bank will collect the bill and deduct some amount from that bill and gives the amount to the seller. Now for example, here 10,000 is the worth of bill. So the worth of bill is 10,000, which has to be collected from buyer. But seller is in urgent need of money. So he goes to the bank, gives or present that bill in the bank, and the bank what it will do? It will take that bill and it gives rupees 9,500 only to the seller. And that 500 rupees, remaining 500 which is taken by the bank is what? That is discount. In the sense, the bill is being discounted in the bank and the remaining amount is given to the seller. Now, when does the bank will collect? Later, after the due date, that is after 30 days, bank will collect the amount. How much? Whole 10,000. So, it will collect whole 10,000 from the buyer. So, this is all about this bill discounting. So, what do you mean by bill discounting? There are two parties, seller and the buyer, and this takes place when the goods are sold on credit basis. Now, here seller sells goods worth rupees 10,000 to the buyer on the condition that he will make payment after 30 days. But seller is in urgent need of money. So, what he'll do? He collect the bill from the buyer and take that bill and present in the bank. Now, what the bank will do? Bank will discount that bill and gives only 9,500 rupees. Remaining 500 rupees is the discount in the bank. Now, on the due date, buyer has to make payment to the bank, not to the seller. Buyer will make payment to the bank. How much? Whole bill amount, that is 10,000 only. So, this 500 is benefit for the bank. Clear? So, this is about bill discounting. So, discounting of bill is an attractive fund-based financial service provided by the finance company. So, it is one of the attractive fund-based company which is provided by the financial service. It is one of the attractive fund-based financial service which is provided by the finance company. In the case of time bill, payable after a specified period. For example, here in this example, I have given 30 days. So, there is a particular time to make the payment, right? In the case of time bill payment after a specified period, the holder need not wait till the maturity of due date. So, here the holder is whom? Seller. Seller need not wait till the date of maturity. He can directly go till the date of maturity or due date. If he is in need of money, he can discount. He can discount the bill with his banker. After deducting certain amount, that is discount, the banker credits the net amount to customer's account. So, this I have clearly explained with this example. So, if he is in need of money, he can directly go and present that bill in the bank, and the bank will discount that bill and give the remaining amount to the seller. So, this is when the seller wants the money immediately. Thus, the bank purchases the bill and credits the customer account with the amount of bill less discount. So, he will not give the whole amount, he will deduct some amount as less discount. On the due date, the drawee makes the payment to the banker. So, this I have told you. Here the buyer will make the payment to the bank. If he fails to make the payment, the banker will recover the amount from the customer who has discounted the bill. Now, for example, here buyer on the due date, buyer has to give worth rupees 10,000 to the bank. Suppose the buyer has not given that amount. Suppose buyer has not given that amount, then bank has a right to take from the seller. So, bank has a right to take from the seller how much? Whole 10,000 rupees. Clear? So, this is when the buyer fails to pay amount to the bank, then the bank has a right to re-indemnify from the seller. Next, in short, discounting of bill means giving loans on the basis of security of a bill or of exchange, security of bill of exchange. And the next one is venture capital. So, what do you mean by venture capital? So, this is a capital which is provided by the financial organization for the new projects. That is, the organization who are going into a new ventures or the new projects, for them this fund will be provided. So, venture capital simply refers to capital which is available for financing the new business ventures. So, as I told, it's quite difficult for the new organization to get loan or the financial assistance from the organization. So, this financial service helps these new ventures in order to take risky projects also. So, it involves lending finance to the growing companies. So, those companies who are growing, who are not able to raise their funds, for them this financial service will provide fund. It is the investment in a highly risky project. So even the financial services or the financial organizations are ready to invest in risky projects also with the objective of earning high rate of return. So they will assume that the rate of return might come high, so they are even able to take risk in order to invest in this new ventures. In short, venture capital means long-term risk capital in the form of equity finance. So this is about venture capital. So what is venture capital? So this financial service organization will provide capital for the new business, that is new organization, or for the new projects. And the next one is housing finance. So this is mainly relating to the construction of house, the finance which is required in order to housing. That is, housing finance simply refers to providing finance for house building, that is construction of house. It emerged as a fund-based financial service in India with the establishment of National Housing Bank, that is NHB, by RBI in 1988. So their main aim is to provide finance for the construction of house. It is an apex housing finance institution in the country. Till now, a number of specialized financial institutions or companies have entered in the field of housing finance. Here in the field of housing finance also there are number of organizations who would be providing finance for house building. Next, some of the institutions are HDFC, LIC, Housing Finance, City Home, in bank housing, etc. So housing finance is nothing but providing finance for house building purpose. Now we shall see about sixth one, that is insurance services. So you are familiar about this insurance services. Let us see what is it. Insurance is a contract between two parties. So it is a contract between two parties. Let us see which are the parties. One party is the insured and the other party is insurer. So who are the two parties? Insured and insurer. So the two parties are insured and insurer. Now who is an insured? So insured can be either property or person. So it can be either property or person. Then who is insurer? It is a financial company. So it is a company. Now insured is a person whose life or property is insured with the insurer. So insured means what? So whose life or property is insured, in the sense whose property or life is secured with the insurer. That is, the person whose risk is insured is called as insured. Now here, if you take life insurance itself, here a person's life has been secured by whom? Insurer, that is company, that is life insurance company, right? Here the risk of person is in the hands of whom? Company. So risk is being transferred by whom? Transferred to whom? To the company. Here even the property, for example vehicle insurance. So insured is what? Vehicle. Whereas the risk of vehicle is insured or secured in the hands of the company, that is insurer. So insurer is the insurance company. So who is an insurer? So it is an insurance company to whom the risk is transferred by the insured. So here what is transferred? Risk is transferred from insured to insurer. Here risk of insured is in the hands of insurer. That is, the person who insures the risk of insured is called as insurer. Thus, insurance is a contract between insurer and insured. So this we have learned. It is a contract in which insurance company undertakes to indemnify the insured on the happening of certain event for payment of consideration. Now, as I told, there are two parties here, insured and insurer, and the risk of insured or the property or person is in the hands of insurer. So, whenever such risk happens to the insured, then insurer will indemnify the amount. Insurer, what the insurer will do? It will indemnify the amount. Clear? So whenever that particular risk happens, then the insurer will insure the, or it will indemnify the amount to the insured. Next, it is a contract between insurer and insured under which insurer undertakes to compensate the insured for the loss arising from the risk insured against. So this I have told you. So if you think of life insurance, so here if I am having a life insurance, so I am myself called as insured and the company is called as insurer. So my life risk is insured in the hands of insurer. So whatever something happens to my life, then the insurance company have to indemnify. So it has to give some consideration. So according to McGill, insurance is a process in which uncertainties are made certain. So here in this insurance or insurance companies, what they will do? So it is a process in which uncertainties are made certain. So that risk can be minimized, right? So uncertainties can be made certain. Words of John Magee, insurance is a plan wherein persons collectively share the loss of risk. Here, the insurer is going to share the loss of risk. Thus, insurance is a device by which a loss likely to be caused by uncertain event. It's not a certain event, it's an uncertain event. For example, death. Death is uncertain, right? We don't know when death comes. So, it is an uncertain event is spread over a large number of persons who are exposed to it and who voluntarily join themselves against such an event. So it's not that one particular person who is going to compensate. It is a group of person. Here the amount of group of person are being indemnified. The document which contains all the terms and conditions of insurance, that is a written contract, is called as what? Insurance policy. So that you might be familiar about this word, that is insurance policy. That agreement between insurer and insured is known as what? Insurance policy. The amount for which the insurance policy is taken is called as what? Sum assured. For example, 10 lakh or 20 lakh. So for which the agreement has been made. So that is known as what? Sum assured, for which they have made an agreement. The consideration in return for which the insurer agrees to make good the loss is known as insurance premium. Here the insurer, so here the insurer will get the amount from the insured yearly or quarterly or monthly, which is known as what? Insurance premium. So here the insured have to make the payment till that risk arises. He has to make the payment, which is known as what? That amount is known as insurance premium. So this premium is to be paid regularly. So it has to be paid regularly by the insured. It may be paid monthly, quarterly, half yearly or yearly. So the consideration for which the amount has to be paid yearly, monthly or quarterly is known as what? Insurance premium. So that amount can be made monthly, quarterly or half yearly or yearly they can make the payment. Now let us see the seventh one, that is factoring. So what is this factoring? I'll give an example here. There are two parties, A and B, and B needs some goods from A. So B is what? B is the buyer. So B needs some goods from A and A is the seller. Now B orders for the goods. B gives the order for the goods and A supplies the goods to B. So A supplies goods to B. But B will not make the payment immediately. So there is an agreement between A and B telling that the payment is not made immediately. So it is made in the future date. Now what the A will do? A will appoint a third person. His name is C and he is called as factor. Now what is the duty of C? So C has to collect the amount on behalf of A. So whatever the amount which has to be given by B to A, so that amount will be collected by whom? Collected by C. But when the contract takes place between A and C, so C will pay 80% of the amount. So how much? For example, 1 lakh has to be received from B. So there is a contract between A and B for the supply of goods worth rupees 1 lakh. Now rupees 1 lakh has to be collected by C on behalf of A, right? So 80% of that amount will be given by C to A on the date of contract. So 80% he will give the amount. So he will give the amount to A. Remaining 20% will be given on the due date when C receives the amount from B. Clear? So on the due date, when C receives the complete amount from B, on that date, remaining 20% will be given to A. So this is known as factoring. So what is the use of factoring here? A need not worry about the money which has to come from B. So he can relax because a new person has been appointed for that purpose only, that is C. So C has to take risk and he has to collect amount from B on the due date. So when the contract takes place between A and C on that particular date, 80% of the amount has to be given to A and rest 20% will be given only after B receive or B gives the amount to C. So this is about factoring. Factoring is an arrangement under which the factor purchase the account receivable. Here the factor purchase account receivable from whom? From A. So he purchased account receivable, that is the amount which has to be received from B. For that there is an account receivable. So he will purchase that account receivable arising out of credit sale of goods and services. So this happens on credit sale of goods and services and make immediate cash payment to the supplier or creditor. That is how much? 80%. Thus it is an arrangement in which the account receivable of the firm, that is client, are purchased by the financial institution or banker. So here account receivable is purchased from A and that amount will be recovered on the due date and rest balance amount will be given to A. Thus the factor provides finance to the client, that is supplier A, in respect of account receivable. The factor undertakes the responsibility of collecting the amount. So he has to collect the amount of account receivable. The financial institution, that is factor, undertakes the risk. So risk is in the hands of C, that is the factor, because he has to collect the amount from B, right? So for this type of service as well as for the interest, the factor charges a fee. So this does not take free of cost. Okay, so this does not take free of cost. Here A has to pay some fees to whom? To the new person, that is factor. So he has to pay some fees because he has to take risk and collect the amount from B. So some amount is paid as fees. For the intervening period, this fee or charge is called as what? Factoring. Now clear about factoring? So what is factoring? So factoring means what? Now if the amount which has to be received from the buyer, so here seller will appoint a new person who is known as factor, and the responsibility of the factor is that on behalf of A, he has to receive the amount from the buyer, and for that he has to charge some amount which is known as fees. And the next 8th one is forfeiting. Now what is this forfeiting? Forfeiting is a form of financing of receivables relating to international trade, whereas factoring was relating to internal trade, that is within the country, whereas forfeiting is relating to international trade. Now if you see this picture, there is exporter, think that it is X, and there is an importer Y. Now Y is in need of goods. Y order for the goods to X. Now what the X will do? X will deliver the goods to the importer on the condition that he will tell that he will not make the payment. He will tell that he has to, here the exporter has to receive the amount from his bank, which is called as what? Importer's bank. Importer's bank. Now again I'll repeat. Now the exporter have exported goods to the importer. Importer is in need of goods. He has ordered for the goods. Now the exporter have supplied goods to the importer. But the payment is not made by the importer. So he tells the exporter that exporter has to collect from the importer's bank. So in importer's country there is a bank. So from that bank he has to collect that amount. For that, what the exporter will do? Exporter will appoint a new person who is known as forfeiter. Now, what is the duty of the forfeiter? So, when he appoints, so he gives that bill also. That is the transaction which have taken place between the exporter and importer. So, he will give that bill. Then, what the forfeiter will do? He will give advance amount, that is 80% of the advance amount to the exporter. So, forfeiter takes that bill and gives the 80% of the bill. Next, on the due date, what the forfeiter will do? Forfeiter will collect the amount from the importer's bank. Forfeiter will collect the amount from importer's bank by presenting the bill. And when he gets that amount, so what the forfeiter will do? Remaining 20% he will give to the exporter. So this is what happens in forfeiting. So here exporter will export the goods to the importer, but the importer will not make the payment. It is that he wants to collect from the importer's bank. So what the exporter will do? He will go for a contract with a new person who is known as forfeiter. Now what is the duty of the forfeiter? So he has to collect from importer's bank. So on the date of this agreement between exporter and forfeiter, he will give 80% amount as advance and remaining 20% will be given once he receives from the importer's bank. So once he receives, he gives 20% of the amount. For this, he also charges some fees. Along with that, if any extra work is done by the forfeiter, he will charge commission also. Now let us see what is this forfeiting. Forfeiting is a form of financing of receivables relating to international trade. So this is international trade, whereas factoring is inside the country internal trade, but it is international trade. It is non-recourse purchase by a banker or any other financial institution of receivables arising from export of goods and services. So this happens when the export of goods and services takes place. The exporter surrenders his right. So here exporter gives the bill to whom? To the forfeiter to receive the future payment from the buyer to whom goods have been supplied. Here, in order to receive the amount from the buyer, so the seller gives the bills to the forfeiter. Forfeiting is a technique that helps the exporter sell his goods on credit and it receives the cash well before the due date. So before the due date, so the benefit is that here the exporter can receive 80% of the amount before the due date from the forfeiter. In short, forfeiting is a technique by which forfeiter or financing agency discounts. So he doesn't work for free, he discounts the bill and pay ready cash to the exporter. The exporter need not bother about the collection of export bill. So here exporter is not worried about collecting the bill from the amount from the buyer. So all the risk will be in the hands of whom? Forfeiter. He can just concentrate on export trade. But here some amount has to be given to the forfeiter as commission as well as fees. And the next one is mutual fund. So what is this mutual fund? As I told, there are a number of small investors who are unable to invest their money in large investment, right? So there are a number of small investors. So there are small investors who are unable to invest their money in large investment. So what is the work of mutual fund? They will pool all these investors. So they will take money from all these small investors and this big amount is invested in profitable venture. So it will be invested in profitable venture and whatever the profit get from that investment, it will be distributed among these investors. So all these investors gets that profit. So what is this mutual fund? Mutual fund are financial intermediaries which mobilize savings from the people and invest them in mix of corporate and government securities. So as I told, when you have little amount of money but you can't invest in big ventures, right? So during that period, what is the work of mutual fund? They will bring all that small investment together so that it will become a big investment, right? So a big capital. So that capital will be invested in big or profitable ventures, and whatever the profit they get, that will be distributed among all the small investors. So the mutual fund operates actively, manage this portfolio of securities and earn income through dividend, interest and capital gains. So it is helpful for these small investors because when they earn more profit, they get share of their profit, right? So the income are eventually passed on the mutual fund shareholders. So this profit has to be distributed among mutual fund shareholders. In today's session, we have discussed first type, that is fund-based or asset-based service. In my next session, we shall discuss second type, that is non-fund-based service. So hope you have understood this session. So in today's session, we have learned there are two types of financial service, fund-based as well as non-fund-based. In today's session, we have studied about fund-based financial service. In my next session, we shall continue with non-fund-based financial service. We shall see what are the service which comes under non-fund-based services. So my dear students, hope you have understood the session. See you all in my next session. Till then, take care. Thank you.